Thank you. Any other requests? Okay. Mr. Durr, if you could come down for just a second. You know, we had a natural lands tax initiative that was passed by the voters that went on for a number of years, which allowed us to buy the 6,100 plus acres of lands that have been preserved for natural lands. And there was a lot of preparation and public input to see exactly if the public wanted to have a natural lands program, if they were willing to fund a natural lands program, and what they wanted to see done with the natural lands program once it was initiated. And that was a voter initiative. We've had a request from a number of people throughout the community to renew that tax since it has sunset. And so I think we've asked staff to put together a steering committee, talk about all of these issues. The survey is part of that to understand what the people really want, or if they want anything at all. It would be on a 2020 ballot. The voters would decide, just like they did on the penny sales tax, and the county isn't pushing it one way or the other. We're trying to gather information. So, Mr. Durr, I know we have convened a steering committee. All of the board of county commissioners have had an opportunity to appoint people to the steering committee, and so will they be involved with the survey questions? Can you talk a little bit about how this is going to move forward?
Yes, good morning. For the record, Richard Durr, Leisure Services Director. We will be meeting with the steering committee the last week of this month. We've been in contact with all of them. There's one additional committee member who's being appointed here today, so we've also reached out to them. The idea of bringing in the particular questions will be directly in front of the steering committee. Now, those folks have a lot of heavy lifting to do, so we've got an agenda that we've already prepared for our steering committee members. They'll be reading and going through all of the information that we've shared with you all, our 2018 Park System Master Plan, the telephone survey that was done by Leisure Services 5 years ago. That will serve as the sort of the jumping off point, so we're not starting from scratch. That particular survey was done as part of our master planning effort to gauge within the community what are the perceived needs and priorities of our community in going forward, both with natural lands, trails, and parks. So we'll be using that as a tool to then work with the steering committee and also work with our Parks and Preservation Advisory Committee. We have a meeting with them on Wednesday night of this week. Well, they too will be pulled into this particular process and be able to provide us a lot of input. This particular work authorization has been set up so that we're able to come back to you once we work with this committee and these groups with the telephone survey, and then come back to you hopefully here in the beginning of the new year to say, this is what we've heard, do you want to proceed any further? And give you that ability to then be able to take a look at the information that was provided by our steering committee and our Parks and Preservation Advisory Committee, and make an informed decision on moving to the next step. So that's in essence what this first work authorization is all about.
If I could add on to what Rick said, we did have a public work session on this, and we did discuss the needs, the parks needs, and that's where we laid out there's about $90 million worth of need based on the master plans that we have. This wasn't something that just came up, and it wasn't part of budget. There was a specific discussion and to determine what's the best direction to go. And this was something that was authorized by the board for us to pursue, to get more information. Surveys we just saw with the employee benefit survey are a very valuable tool that we use in many different areas of the county to understand what either the community sentiment is, or in the case of the employee survey, employee sentiment. So they're a very valuable tool. They are but one tool, though. I know that if working with the steering committee, if it looks like that this may be something that has legs, we'll be out in the community certainly talking with folks. So this is just one way to determine what the community is interested in, and these folks are experts. They've done it before. That they know the right questions to ask to really get a good feel. So that's why we're asking the board to go ahead and fund this, because we think we know from the sales tax referendum what a large endeavor that is, and before we get too far down the road, we'd like to make sure that we're headed in the right direction.
And all these meetings will be open to the public.
Absolutely.
That they're starting, so you'll have it out to
correct.
make sure everybody knows they can come and attend.
Okay, Thank you, Mr. Durr.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's also important to point out that this board is not the only way that an initiative can be placed on the ballot. Citizens, through their own effort, can collect petitions to put something on the ballot themselves. So if this is, truly a citizen-driven initiative, that's another method for them if they don't feel like the majority of this board is willing to put it on the ballot.
All right, thank you. Ms. Guillet, you